Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living, Victoria. We're online, of course, and remain online until we know that we can open our doors again and just greet one another in person. But right now, it's just wonderful to be able to see your lovely faces on Zoom. So welcome today. And I would like to just invite you in this moment to just go within as we go into an opening prayer. And know with me that we are drawn together by the power and the presence of God. This power and presence is everywhere around us. It is in us and through us. It is all that is in everyone, in everything. And so we are connected one to the other, each one of us having this power within, each one of us connected by that divine mind, that great sea of God. And I know that as we come together, the energy of each one of us vibrates to a higher frequency, and that our thoughts and our ideas and all that we hold sacred increases, absolutely increases in magnificence. And each of us feels this power and presence within. And collectively, we send our prayers out to the world, to all those who need them. And we know that they are incredibly powerful because we are here in numbers today. Prayer always works, but as two or more are gathered, the energy increases. And so I bless you for being here today. I'm so grateful to have us all here collectively, and blessing those people who are part of our congregation who watch this later in a recorded fashion on Facebook or on our website. Bless them all and bless all those yet to come. We are so grateful for all that is. I am so grateful for each one of you. I just say thank you, God, for this glorious day. And so it is. And so it is. And we're now going to be blessed with some more music by our wonderful Darlene Haynes.
Thank you, Carrie. This song is called Blessing to the World by Karen Drucker. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are, and all you do is a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are, and all you do is a blessing to the world. I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the voice of spirit on earth, and who I am, and all I do is a blessing to the world. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth, and who we are, and all we do is a blessing to the world, is a blessing to the world. We're a blessing to the world.
Oh, thank you, Darlene. It's so wonderful to have some music during our service again, and wonderful to hear your voice. And so we are a blessing to the world, each one of us. We are the heart and the hands and the love and the presence in everyone's lives. And as you know, a couple of weeks ago, I began a series based upon Larry Dossey's book, The One Mind. And it takes me deeper every day that I think about this, because when we're talking about the one mind, we are really talking about all that is, and we are talking about that which connects each one of us to the other. There is absolutely no separation. You know, as I said a couple of weeks ago, it's that great sea of God. And when you look at a wave on that great sea, that is individualized, but it is still part of the great sea, and it still contains all of the elements of. And it's the same with us in terms of God. You know, we may be individualized in a physical form, but we're not separate in any way. We're still all part of God. And that's the part that connects each one of us one to the other. You know, this teaching, I've often said, is an intellectual teaching. And in dealing with Larry Dossey's book and his contemporaries, Greg Braden and Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton, scientists who are connecting science and spirit in a way that it hasn't been done before, it's a very intellectual process. And yet, for us to really, really find this working in our lives, the place we need to be going to is into our hearts, you know, not into our minds. Our brains are organs of thought. Dr. Holmes wrote that in one of his books, probably in more than one of his books. Our brains are organs of thought, but they are not the mind. The mind is outside the brain. The mind is everywhere. And we seem to be able to just to tune into specific parts of that mind. You know, as I spoke of a couple of weeks ago, when we are very, very connected to someone we love very deeply, quite often we will pick up something that's happening to them. It could be something wonderful, it could be something serious, something traumatic, but we will immediately know. And it moves beyond the brain. It's just this sudden message that we get. And that's when when we are totally awake and aware and and conscious, and perhaps not thinking about that person. It's just the thought suddenly comes into our minds, and then, you know, our hearts swell if it's something wonderful, or if it's something that creates some concern for us, it causes us to get in touch with them and to see what it is that's happening. But certainly it's not an everyday occurrence in our lives. And it's kind of interesting that our brains are like transmitters. You know, they transmit information to us. But the mind is beyond that. And when we can live, breathe, and have our being in mind and get our brains out of the way, or as Emerson said, our bloated nothingness out of the way, we can be so connected, and our lives can be so much fuller, so much richer, so much more rewarding, and so much healthier. And as I was thinking about this this past week, I was thinking about how connected animals are. You know, I know I've told the story before, but remember the story of the man who went to Africa to save elephants. And there was a huge herd of elephants that was about 10 kilometers from where he lived. And but he worked with them and worked to be sure that they were taken care of. And when the man made his transition, the elephants formed a line and walked single file to his home. They had never been there before. They circled his home and they trumpeted their grief. And you know, so there's this one mind that they were connected to. They knew where he lived, even though that they had never been there. And it was that love, that presence that connected them. And I heard on the news a couple of days ago that there were some people who moved from Florida, and they moved to Seattle, and they lost their dog before they left. I might have mentioned this as well. And uh, a year later, the dog arrived on their doorstep in Seattle. It didn't follow the route that they followed. It followed a different route. Well, who knows? That's what the newscaster said. But that dog came back to them. It knew where to find them. It knew where to go. It had that instinct about where to go. And the most remarkable story for me so far that I heard was, um, uh, or read, was in Larry Dossey's book. And he was talking about a man who has been had been saving bees for years and years and years. He had many hives, and it wasn't so that he could collect honey from the hives. He simply wanted to preserve them because bees have become somewhat endangered on this planet. And he died not too long ago, and he wanted to be buried in a casket, in a grave, sort of in the old traditional way. And when the service ended, a swarm of thousands and thousands of bees came to the gravesite and covered the casket. And for a half hour, were absolutely still on the casket. And then in unison got up and flew away, went back to their hives again. Again, honoring the man who loved them, who was there to preserve them, was there to save them. You know, it tells me that we have lost something through the centuries because of our brains, interfering. We need our brains. I'm not saying that we don't need them. We do need them to go through our everyday lives. But we have lost that something that connects us so deeply to one another, and something that animals, and I didn't realize that insects have as well. And I marvel that whales know when to head to Hawaii for the winter, and how the people of Hawaii rejoice when they do arrive, and how the birds fly south. Not all of them do. We have some that hang around here, I think probably because our climate is so wonderful. But still, there is that instinct that I'm sure we were born with, but somehow or another it's got kind of watered down, and it's like the veil came down over everything because we got so involved with our intellect, so involved with science. And so I think we're living in a time now where it's so important for us to connect again. It's so important for us to really understand that there is something greater than our brains, something more powerful. And we might be paying lip service to that, but that's not what it's all about. It's about being able to just sink into God, sinking into that vast sea, into that vast that vast mind that is there, that connects absolutely everything on this planet, because it is everything on the planet all at once. We have to start figuring out how to surrender, just surrender to the one mind. Dr. Holmes said, "One mind is all living and all giving, and when we move beyond the law, we move into love." When we move beyond the law, we move into love. Isn't that where we want to be? Instead of judgment, instead of fear, instead of anxiety, instead of wondering, you know, if things that are difficult in our lives are ever going to go away, instead to move into that place of perfect peace, because that's what is beyond our brains. That is what is all around us. And that's where we can be. And when we live in that space, when we are consciously aware that we're in that space, then there's absolutely nothing that can harm us. We need to really, really remember that. Love is the eternal presence in life, the eternal presence. And when we hold that in our minds, when we have that vision of love being that eternal presence, that whatever is going on for us, that we can move into love, and any challenges that we're experiencing can disappear when we move into love. When we are aware of that, we start seeing things really shift in our lives. We start to be healthier people. We start to be happier. We actually feel joy in our lives, and uh, and we can affect the world itself. We can affect this planet. We can affect this cosmos in a way that we perhaps never dreamed possible, because we can connect with the one mind, and we can send our vision of a better world, our vision of better lives for ourselves right out there, right out into all of that mass where everything begins to take form. And it's so important, I think, for us to remember this in these days. You know, times have always been difficult when we go through history. There are always big challenges that people have had, and there have been wars for as long as there's recorded history. But perhaps, just perhaps, it's up to us to change that right now. Perhaps it's up to us to see beyond that, knowing that the power of a small group like we are today is enormous in the overall scheme of things. You know, I keep repeating what Lynn McTaggart said. You know, when you put three people together, you have enough energy to boil the oceans of the world. Imagine that, boiling the oceans of the world. And I guess fortunate that we don't know how to do that. But again, the magnificence of who we really are, we don't really come to appreciate. And it's really time for us to do that. And, and again, I think we've done it, but if we haven't, we have to release the idea of that old man in the sky. That old man in the sky that is called God by many, many religions still on this planet. That old man in the sky who we're told is there to judge us and to punish us. We really have to get rid of that image forever. And I know, if I'm saying thank you, God, or if I'm praying, I'll look up and I'll say, oh, thank you, God. And as I was doing that the other day, I realized that I wasn't looking up to some old man in the sky. What I was doing was looking up in gratitude, looking up, to quote something biblical, looking up to the hills from whence cometh my help, from which my help did come. Kathy Ann Lewis, who's a wonderful minister in Seattle and has been at her church there for 35 years, which is no small feat. I did a class with her a while ago, and something that I really loved was she said, just take a negative idea that you have and look down and see what that feels like. Let's say that the negative idea is that, we're never going to be able to have a normal life again because of COVID, and just how horrible that feels. And then look straight ahead. And as you look straight ahead, things kind of neutralize. They don't, there isn't that deep worry and fear. There's a neutral feeling. And then she said, lift your eyes up. And she suggests that if you're indoors rather than outdoors, that you look to the place where the wall meets the ceiling, that kind of crack along the way. And when you do that, she said, notice how it all disappears. And I thought, what a wonderful metaphor from, lift up your eyes unto the hills from whence cometh my help, from whence cometh your help, your health too. So, so when we're looking up, we're using a higher consciousness. We're tapping into a higher consciousness. And that's really, really what this one mind is all about. It's about being in that higher consciousness. And it takes us to a realm where, where we begin to experience things in the same way that animals do, that amazing intuition that they have and that they follow. We start to be more and more connected with that. And so it takes practice, just like everything else. As I often say, if you want to play the piano, you don't just sit down and start playing. You take lessons and you practice, unless you're a child prodigy. And it takes time. So the question is, are we prepared to give it the time? Are we prepared to do this? Are we prepared to have this veil lifted off us, so that we have the knowledge that we need to change ourselves and to change the world? That knowledge that is out there beyond us in the sea of all knowledge of everything. Because when we can do that, we can not only heal illness, we can prevent illness, and we can prevent some of the challenges that we experience in our lives. Animals right now operate at a higher frequency than we do. And, you know, we need to perhaps follow them, watch them a little bit more closely. I don't know how many of you were watching news on CFAX on Friday night, but at the end of the CFAX news, of course, there's always some good news or some sweet story. And there was a story of a husband and wife who rescue dogs, and they take care of them until they're kind of rehabilitated, and then they're basically in foster care with them, and then can be placed into permanent homes. And the couple own a cat. And what happened with the first rescue that they brought in was the cat just went and cuddled with the rescue and started to lick it, started to clean it, and cuddled into it, and the two of them cuddled together, and that dog regained its trust in humans and was then able to be placed in a home. And then the next dog they brought in was a smaller, more like a puppy than a full-grown dog. And it wasn't too keen about having a cat cuddling up, but the cat would not give up. The cat simply kept on doing so and started kissing it and licking it and then snuggling in. And finally, the little dog trusted the cat and allowed the cat to cuddle, and the dog healed. The dog did not want human contact before that. You know, all of you are probably receiving wonderful videos these days during COVID, where you're seeing animals that are the most unlikely to be together and in loving communication with one another. Something is happening on this planet. Something is happening that is revealing that new kind of love, instead of them fighting with one another, instead of them attacking one another, that they are showing love for one another. And isn't that a wonderful example of what we need to be doing as well? You know, let us show our love and speak our love for those in our families, to our friends. Let us show our love in whatever way we can to people we don't know. How can we help them? You know, what is it that I can do for you today? What can I do that is going to make your life a bit easier, a little less lonely, a little happier? What is it that I can do? What is it that each of us can do? You know, at a cellular level, um, Larry Dossey says at a cellular level that the spaces between the particles are just pure love. That's what it is. And of course, we translate pure love into God. But the space, not only the spaces are God, but everything is God. Everything is of God, and God is indwelling in everything. I remember Deepak Chopra saying that the intelligence is in the spaces between the cells. Interesting thing to contemplate. But the thing is that we know that God is everywhere, and this is what we have to really, really attach ourselves to. You know, we can say that we're spiritually aware. You know, yes, I mean, we read spiritual books, we come to service on Sundays, we go to Reverend Joanna's meditation on Thursday nights. Um, you know, uh, we listen to spiritual podcasts, whatever. But the thing is, that is an awareness. What the place that we need to be is, we need to be empowered, not just aware of God, but empowered by God. And there's a big difference in that. Being empowered by God means absolutely living and breathing in the presence. We don't go around having to talk about it. I have people who say to me, "Oh, I just want to have friends who I can always have a spiritual discussion with." And I say to them, I just want to be with spiritual beings. I don't want to be talking about it all the time. I want to be it. And that takes practice. I'm not always successful with it. And it doesn't mean that I don't want to talk to people who want to talk about spiritual things, but not exclusively. I want to be spirit in expression. I want to know that I am always connected. I want to feel that connection. That's where the empowerment is. And when we're in that place of empowerment, that's the place of miracles in our lives. That's the place where we stand back and say, wow, I don't know how that happened. Where did that come from? Isn't this incredible? It must be a miracle. Ernest Holmes would just say, oh, it's just everyday stuff. It's just normal. I kind of like calling it a miracle or calling it magical because it evokes a feeling in me that is that connection. And it doesn't matter what we call it. It's about having the connection that is so important. And so there's a kind of protocol that Dossey suggests that we can use, to enhance our alignment with God, to empower ourselves. And again, it's daily practice. And he says 7 minutes a day. That's all it takes. And he said, sit down in a quiet place or lie down if you prefer to lie down. And then become aware of your breath and just breathe easily and naturally and allow your breath to just take over your body. And then go to your heart center. And when you go to your heart center, just be so grateful. Express your gratitude from your heart. Express your gratitude to God for the blessings in your life, for all that you have, for all that is yet to come. And then he said, be quiet for a couple of moments and then go to your crown chakra and your third eye or your pineal gland. And he said, shift your focus from the crown to the third eye and back again. And just keep moving it rhythmically and ever so gently back and forth, back and forth. And he said, do this complete exercise for about 7 minutes every day. And he said, all of a sudden, you will find one day that you are just there. You are fully immersed in God and you know it. And he said, and that's when, if you need healing in your body, if you need financial assistance in your life, if you need prosperity in your life, if you want a relationship, whatever it is that you desire, whatever it is that you're passionate about, that's the moment when it is really going to take place. It's not just saying, oh, well, I'm aware that there's spirit somewhere. I'm aware that God is somewhere. It's about owning it. It's about being it. And at that moment, everything in our lives begin to change. And also in that moment, when we hold it dear to our sacred hearts, that's when things in the world start to change. And it has to start somewhere. So let it begin with us. Let's not give power to negativity or to fear or to lack or to limitation of any kind. That doesn't do us any good at all. That just creates more of the same. Let us give our power to all that is good, true, beautiful, all that is peaceful and loving. That's where we're really meant to be. That's what this is really all about. And we need to understand that it's not out there somewhere, that it's in the inner sanctuary of our hearts. The inner sanctuary. We can't know that place unless we go into silence and listen. We can't keep being busy, busy, busy all the time, never stopping to take a breath and to know that place, that special sanctuary within. And so I invite you to be more cognizant of this in the days ahead. This planet needs us. The people on this earth need us. Let us hold the vision of a healthy planet, a healthy world, a healthy population of all of the good that can be done in the sweet, sacred silence. The sweet, sacred silence. We will then hear the words, I am the light of the world, and I am come to make a difference. I am the light of the world, and I am come to make a difference. That is you, and that is me, and that is every one of us. That's every one of us when we allow ourselves to become empowered, and when we remember that we are never, ever alone. And so it is. Oh, bless you all. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for the gifts that you give, your monetary gifts, your gifts of time, your talents. So many of you give so much. And I personally am so grateful. And I know that everyone in our center is very grateful as well. Excuse me. If you would care to make a contribution today, you can do so by e-transfer, or you can go to our website, www.cslvictoria.com, and you can do something there through PayPal. We're very, very grateful for all that you do during these times. What you're doing basically is holding the space for us to open up again, and hopefully that's not going to be too far away. We just live in the vision of seeing that happen, of seeing us all together again. So I thank you and I bless you, and I invite you to just again close your eyes for a moment and let us have a closing prayer. And I know for each one of you that there is a renewed awakening in your hearts and in your minds, a renewal of your relationship with God, a renewal in the sense that you feel fully empowered. And as you feel this power within, you send this vibration out into the world. We all do. It is a vibration of love, of harmony, of peace, of goodwill. It is something that each of us has to give, each of us has to share, and we do so. And as we do, we stay in the one mind, knowing that we intuitively are guided to whatever it is we're to do, wherever we are to go, and to know that our lives are richly blessed by the divine, and that each of us is a blessing to the world. Know that you are. Know the power that you are. Know the greatness that you are. Know the love that you are. Know the magnificence that you are. Let us all awaken to our spiritual magnificence. I bless you all as we go forward into this week, knowing, absolutely knowing, that we live, move, and have our being in God, and we are never alone. This power, this presence is with us always, in all ways. And so it is. Have an absolutely wonderful week, everybody. Love you all.